Welcome back. Today I'm going to analyze the rapid game that I played last night. Spoiler alert, I did lose. I'm just going to try to find out why, and hopefully that'll help me get better at chess. And hopefully you'll find something in here that helps you get better as well. I played e4 as I have been recently, but like a lot of the games in which I play e4, I didn't get to play the Vienna because my opponent didn't play e5. I'm noticing that's a lot more prevalent over on Lee Chess. I've almost never gotten to play the Vienna over there because I always get the Sicilian, the Scandinavian, and the Caro-Kann defense. On chess.com, I have gotten a few Viennas, but on this one, I got the Caro-Kann defense. I do remember that. Now I'm going to click game review and find out what went wrong. I'll just say that I resigned on move 28. I don't know if you can see that on the move list here because I knew that I was lost, but I'm not sure exactly where it went wrong. There was never a moment in the game at which I thought, oh, that was the mistake. I just noticed here I had nothing else. So let's click game review. Okay, it is hidden just behind my camera view, but my opponent did not make any mistakes or blunders or misses. I think I've said it several times, I'm almost never going to beat somebody who doesn't make a mistake. Now there have been a few times where I haven't made a mistake, but that's increasingly rare. It says I only had 2 mistakes and a few inaccuracies. But I played pretty well. The rating estimator down at the bottom of the evaluation says I played like a 1450 and my opponent played like a 1700. So that is once again confirming my suspicions that people around my rating are getting better. The graph, which I am starting to get used to this new graph that's been around for a week or two now, looks like I had an advantage as high as 130. Let's go to that point in the analysis board and see if it actually was 130. It was not. It was plus 0.7, 0.8 at the most. No, 0.7. Okay. And what I should have played was rook to c1. This is on move 10. Well, it would have been my move 11 is the highest, according to the graph, the highest advantage that I ever had. Should have played rook to c1. Pretty close to that would have been bishop to a3. Okay, I get bishop to a3. That would have, I guess, temporarily prevented them from castling. And it would have been difficult for them to block that diagonal? No, it wouldn't. It says if I had played, actually it says no matter which of the top 3 moves I played, my opponent was supposed to play rook to c8 on their next move. So if I played here, they would have played rook to c8. And then I would have taken that pawn. But my top move was rook to c1, and then they would have played rook to c8, and then I would have taken that pawn. Or I could have played bishop to e2, preparing to castle, then they would have played rook to c8, and I would have played rook to c1. Well, I guess I failed to recognize how important that open file was at this point. And like I said, that's pretty close. But instead, I took the pawn first. But wait, the evaluation says they were at 0 plus 4.5, 0.5. That's actually pretty close. They were supposed to take back with their g-knight, which they did. That helped them develop that piece, plus prepared them to castle. I think that's probably why I shouldn't have played that until after I had the bishop over here, or until after our rooks were facing each other on the c-file. But I still have a very slight advantage. Now I'm supposed to play bishop to e2 to prepare to castle, or bishop to a3 again, or bishop to b5. I could have just gone ahead and put this out here, but if I had done that, they would have just castled. Well, I was thinking about preventing them from castling. I just didn't think about this. I very rarely put my bishop on a3 until that a-pawn has moved, because the bishop is defenseless out here. Now, I know they can't come after it really quickly, and it would have temporarily prevented them from castling. And yeah, I should have been thinking about developing this last piece so I could castle. But instead, what I saw was this spot here. They don't have the f-pawn anymore. Thought this would be a good outpost square for my knight on e5, protected by my pawn. Yes, they can take it, but if they do, I'll take back, and then they still can't castle because then that knight's in danger and it has to go somewhere. Where would it go? I'm not sure. And I would have a pawn in there on e5, blocking their backward e-pawn, which it would be supported by my bishop, which hasn't been moved yet. So that seemed like a good plan to me, but it called that inaccurate. And now my opponent has, no, I was going to say my opponent had a very slight advantage, but the engine is settling on zeros here. If they'll play knight to e4, or castle, or rook to c8. Well, they castled, which leaves us very close to even. Bishop to d3, immediately challenging their bishop. That's what I played. It was my best move. Now they're supposed to play knight to e4, or take my knight, or take my bishop. They took my bishop, so we're very close to even. I was supposed to take back with the knight. Really, I liked my knight where it was. Okay, it was inaccurate for me to take back with my queen. I kind of liked this because it was pointed there, but I guess that's irrelevant right now because they have a knight on f6. And now when they attack my knight, it comes with a little bit of a tempo, but I expected when they attacked my knight that it would come with tempo and I would take back here, right? So they did take that, and I took back with the pawn. Now their other knight has to move, which it did. I thought I was in decent shape here. We're even on material. I have a pawn past the center line. I am prepared to castle. I don't think they can prevent that. I guess they could check, but it's not their turn. It's my turn. Okay, the engine says my best move is to go ahead and challenge this knight, forcing it back one, and then castling. But castling is a very close second, so I did that. I know the game review says we're almost down to -1, but the Stockfish here says we're very close to 0.22. Now my opponent played an inaccuracy here too. They did have a couple of those, but we're still very close to even. I'm supposed to play h3 again to come after that knight, or queen to d2. I'm not sure what queen to d2 does. What does that aim at? Well, I've looked all around the board and I don't see what that would aim at. I don't know what queen to d2 does. I really don't know. Patrolling the dark squares? Because I already have a bishop on the dark squares, why not have a queen on the light squares? I have no idea what d2 would do, but queen to h3 would... Okay, I like queen to h3. Not only does it attack this undefended knight, which would encourage it to move, probably to h6, then I would be pointed at this undefended pawn. But it says I wouldn't take it. Actually, it says they wouldn't move the knight to h6. If I played queen to d2, they would play knight to h6. What? And if I played h3, they would play knight to h6. But if I actually challenged the knight, they wouldn't move it. So if I played queen to h3, it says they would put their queen in here, defending the knight. Oh, because if they moved the knight, I would get that pawn, probably. Okay, well, once they defended that knight, then I would just move my queen over one to g3, and then they would move their queen over one to get out of the way of it. Well, I don't think either my opponent or I would have seen that, but I finally did take the open file, and we're still even. Okay, my opponent came in here, which leaves us close to even. I'm supposed to play queen to g3 now, and then they would just sidestep, just as if I had never moved this rook and we were on the previous turn. Or queen to e2, or queen to h3 even. But now I played h3, which was one of my top moves a few moves ago, but now it sends us underneath 0, minus 0.4, because my opponent can take that pawn. That's why I needed to move my queen. Oh, because now their queen's also pointed at it too, and so I'm going to lose a pawn and a bishop for a knight. Okay, that is what happened. It's my best move to take back, and of course they take back. But still, my opponent has a very slight advantage. We're on move 20 now. Stockfish is jumping around, can't decide what it wants. Rook f to e1, rook f to d1, rook to c2. Well, I saw that queen sitting there, and I thought I could put this rook on e1. I thought if I put this rook on e1, they already have a rook pointed here at this f-pawn, and it probably wouldn't be hard to get a queen pointed there too. So I didn't want to move this rook over and then have to move it back. But yeah, Stockfish wanted that or this or this. But I went the other way, which apparently was just fine. We're minus 0.4. And that was their best move to drop back. Okay, oh, it wants me to double up here on that undefended pawn. Well, I didn't see that. No, I did see that. I just went one further than I should have. I guess the problem with that is that they could immediately challenge it. Yeah, it says they should play e5 here. But they played this instead, doubling up on this pawn. And it's as good as if that's not great, but it's right next to what their other moves would have been. Now it wants me to drop it back one to where I should have put it the time before, or go ahead and bring this one over. Or play queen to d4 to keep that pawn from coming forward. Okay, I do get queen to d4. The problem was I saw a lot of activity coming down right through here, and I wanted an extra defender, so I played that. I know that doesn't add an extra defender to this pawn, but it provides a little bit of an incoming threat here if I can somehow wiggle my queen around to get my queen over on the g-file as well. They did not play one of their top 3 moves, but it leaves the evaluation almost the same. Okay, now we're at move 22, and still very close to even. Neither one of us has made a mistake yet. I'll just give you a spoiler alert if you can't see the move list. My next move was the mistake. What I used to do was try to figure out what I should have done, but that took way too long, and I was wrong so often. I'm just going to look at Stockfish. Stockfish wants queen to e2. That makes sense, because I was talking about defending the f-pawn. Or queen to d2 does the same thing, defends the f-pawn. Or rook to e3. That would have blocked their queen pointed at my f-pawn, because right now they have 3 attackers on the f-pawn, and I only have 2 defenders on it, my rook and my king. And my king won't be of use as long as they have an extra attacker in the back. So this makes sense, and blocking. I didn't even think of that. Blocking the queen's approach. I think I didn't think of that because then they could push this pawn forward. But if they pushed the pawn forward, then I could have gone back. Wow, it says if I did that to block the queen from coming in, they would go ahead and take this anyway. Because when I took back, that left the defense of the back rank. Okay, wow. And my opponent is up a pawn now because I gave up that e-pawn earlier. But I did try to defend this, I just defended it poorly this way. Okay, that was a mistake, but despite what the game review says, -2, Stockfish here says it's actually not even -1, minus 0.97. So I actually wasn't lost here. Well, that's fine, because I didn't think that I was lost here. I thought I was doing okay. I knew I was going to end up doubling pawns here, but they were going to have to waste some rooks in order to do that, in order to cause that. Well, they did waste a rook. It was their best move. Great move. And my best move was to take back. Anything else would have been a blunder there. Okay, now they played what they should have played a long time ago, which is push that pawn forward. And as you see, the rating starts to slip, 0.8. Okay, now I have a few moves here. One is rook to e1, I guess, again, targeting this undefended pawn, because now their queen's not pointed there anymore, and their rook's not pointed at f2 anymore. They've blocked their own queen from pointing at it, and I've blocked their other rook from pointing at it. So my king is actually temporarily safe, despite this huge open file. But their queen can get over there fast. Well, I didn't want their queen to get over there fast. And I thought, how can I get over there to defend against that? And it looked pretty obvious. I would have to put my queen here, which does aim at that undefended pawn, but more importantly, it aims over here at g4. Stockfish says that's my second best move. It's very close. So I wasn't wrong to play that either. And despite my mistake, we're still only at minus 0.9, which at my level is still even. Thought I was defending well here, and apparently I was. Their best move is to check here, and it was not my best move to do what I had intended. Really, it was my best move to get out of the way. This is my third best move to block, and very close in evaluation, all around -1. So I did block. We're at -1, still thinking about it. Now, they should not have traded here, and they didn't. They went back over there. We're still at minus 0.9. Now, again, I need to play rook to e1. See, they are defending this pawn that I'm attacking, but rook to e1 hits it. I'm not in danger from anywhere else, am I? Yes, this pawn. They have two attackers pointed at this pawn. And that's what I was seeing here. And this is going to explain my next move, which the computer says was inaccurate, but not quite a mistake. But what I should have played instead was queen to e4, rook to e1. But wait, rook to e1 would have allowed them to take this pawn. It says they wouldn't have. It says if I played rook to e1, they would play d3. I don't know if my opponent would have played that or not. They might have. They were playing very well. What I did instead was add a defender to this pawn. That was inaccurate, and it takes us to minus 1.4, which is starting to be lost. So I shouldn't have worried about that pawn. I should have played rook to e1. And they're seriously not going to take this now? It says no. What would happen if they took it? They would still be ahead slightly, and I would take back, and then I assume they would take back. That's their only move that's not a blunder, and then I get that pawn. Okay, and then I would get that pawn. And my opponent would still have a very slight advantage because they have a passed pawn. And yes, I can get behind it, but for how long? It's their turn. They're going to take this pawn, and I'm not going to get behind that. Okay, it's changing its mind. It says rook to e4, rook to e7, rook to d6. I think here, I know that rooks on the 7th are awesome because you can hit all those pawns and keep their king from coming, but I guess it wants me to get behind that pawn this way. Why wouldn't they just push it? If I played rook to e7, why wouldn't they just push this pawn? Oh, because then their rook can't defend it. Once it gets past here, then their rook can't defend it, and I'm going to come after their rook. Okay. Well, that's a long string of things that didn't happen. But I do understand now why this would have been good. I don't understand my second best move, which was rook to d1, but I do understand queen to d4, I think. Sorry, queen to e4. Queen to e4, and it says their best move is to take here, because that's the thing defending my queen. So they could take here. I would basically have to trade queens at that point, and then they could run their rook back, or double their pawns and leave their rook right here aiming at that one. Again, I don't know if my opponent would have found that or not, but that's also another hypothetical. But I think I do understand at least why I should have played one of those two moves. I do not understand rook to d1. What would that accomplish other than blocking this d pawn? I don't know. If I'd played rook to d1, it says they wouldn't have taken this pawn, but I think they might have, because it's there for the taking. But if I'd played rook to e1, I see now that then if they took this pawn and we traded and their rook came down here, then I would get that pawn and be behind their other one. Okay, that makes sense. But again, I moved this forward to defend that pawn. We're at minus 1.5, 1.4. My opponent's best move is to rook to f6. How did they know that was their best move? I don't think I would have played that if I was my opponent. I don't know that I would have found it. Their second best move is rook to f5, which would have prevented my queen from seeing that pawn. But my opponent must have realized it was about that pawn. I don't know why didn't they just move it forward one. And I don't know why that's not listed among their best moves. Also, h5 is listed as among their best moves. Now that I might have found, because I would know that my queen is guarding that square. Also, I'm looking at it from the flip side. Who knows what I would see if I was looking at it from the other player's perspective. But yeah, I don't think I would have found that, but my opponent did find that. Their absolute best move. And again, I'm supposed to play queen to e4 here. Oh, I just realized why that's best, and I think okay, I see why my opponent saw it now. My king and my queen are lined up on the same file, and they can get there in 2 moves. Yeah, and the only move that's not a blunder is to get my queen out of the line with my king. And then they would still check me here with their rook, and then I'd have to get out of the way with my king. And then they would trade queens with me and have a passed pawn. But yeah, good for my opponent for seeing that. It took me way too long to see this, but once you see that, right? My idea here, of course, was to move my king out of the way and then go down, but I failed to see that my opponent had already found the problem here. Obviously, they had found the problem because that's what they did next. And there is when I realized I was lost. I know that at my level, you're supposed to play on, but we had 7 minutes left in a 10-minute game. I mean, I could take the rook. It doesn't say that's one of my top 3 moves. My top 3 move is just to slide my king forward 1. Wait. It doesn't even say their next best move is to take my queen. Okay, Stockfish really throws me off sometimes. It says my best move is king to g3, and then they're not going to take my king? Okay, they would still, queen. They would still be fine if they took my queen. But d3 is their best move, because I can't stop that passed pawn at that point. I mean, I can put my rook in front of it, but that's all ridiculous at that point, and then they're going to take my queen. But yeah, they don't have to take my queen now because I left my king there. Okay, well, what if I had moved my king over? Oh, wait. Is Stockfish going silly now? It says b4 is my second best move. I don't think it said that earlier. Queen to g3 is my third best move. What if I just got my king out of the way? Okay, then they would have definitely taken here, and I would have taken back with the pawn. Okay, and that would have been about the same evaluation as before. Okay, so right here, when my opponent saw this happening and I didn't see it, I still had a chance, all the way up to my last move. Okay, well, that's the lesson. We did at least get one lesson from this game. Much of the rest of it was just ridiculously complex for me, but this part is simple. And again, good job to my opponent for spotting it. I missed it completely. My king and my queen were on the same file, and they could attack it. And they saw that, apparently. That's why the rook lift up to f6 was fine, and they're going to bring it over to g6 to line up with my queen and king. And I should have seen that now, gotten out of here, so if they did check, I wouldn't lose my queen for the rook, but I'd still be behind because they have a passed pawn with the queen behind it. They have another pawn right next to it. But I mean, we were going to trade queens here in just a second after they checked me and I got out of the way. But then I would have trouble stopping that passed pawn because of how far away my king is. Oh, and my king would be cut off because our queens would have been traded and their rook's sitting there on g6. I can't get my king off the h file because the g file is blocked off by the rook. So yeah, so I mean, in a sense, I was lost before that, even if I had seen this. Okay, well, again, not going to beat very many people who don't make any mistakes, as my opponent did not. We played very well until right around here someplace where I got my queen and king lined up, and I missed just a couple of really tiny things, and then here I missed the big one by allowing the check here. I mean, the pin, I should say, not the check. Okay, so yeah, my opponent found that, and I resigned. So don't put your king and your queen on the same file or rank if it can then be very quickly or immediately attacked by a minor piece or a lesser piece. Well, I'm glad we learned something. I had a couple of these where I went through 30 minutes and didn't learn a thing. Thank you for spending your time here once again, and I'll see you next time.